As you have heard, most of these cases are imported ones, and the majority are Singaporeans and residents coming back from overseas. We've said this before. And fortunately, we have been able to pick them up early, some even right at the airport, some shortly after they come home and they see a doctor. And we know that these cases have not gone on to spread to other people. But we cannot afford to take further risk if the number of these imported cases continue to rise. And that's why we are imposing additional border controls and travel restrictions today. For outgoing travelers, we are raising the advisory from defer non-essential travel to defer all travel. For incoming travelers, we have introduced a tiered system of controls recently. At the highest risk level, we have countries like China, Republic of Korea, Italy, France, Germany, and Spain, where we already disallow short-term visitors from these countries. So that remains at the highest risk. At the next tier, we have countries like UK, Switzerland, Japan, and the ASEAN countries, and all visitors with recent travel history in these countries have to serve a 14-day self-isolation period in Singapore, a stay-home notice in Singapore. We will now broaden this requirement to all other countries in the world, which means that a Singaporean coming back from anywhere in the world effectively will have to serve a full 14-day self-isolation period. Even with these controls, we have to be mentally prepared for the number of imported cases to continue rising in the coming days. And that's simply because we already know that there are more Singaporeans wanting to come back to Singapore at this time. There are students in Europe, in the US, there are people working overseas who are all wanting to come back during this particular critical period. And we have to expect, given the way the virus is transmitting overseas, that some of the returning Singaporeans will also be infected. So with all these measures in place, we have to be still mentally prepared that in the coming days, the number of cases will still go up. But at least with the new measures, we can ensure that all arrivals into Singapore will be required to self-isolate for a full 14 days, and we will enforce this requirement strictly. So even if there are more cases amongst the returnees, we can isolate them and treat them and minimize the risk of the virus transmitting more broadly to other Singaporeans. So that's our key objective. And with these measures, we hope we can limit the number of new imported cases and continue to slow down the spread of the virus in Singapore.